Iran is now portrayed as moving to purge the very foreign minister that Donald Trump spent months trying to impress, suggesting that the diplomat who mastered Trump speak on social media may suddenly find himself on the wrong side of Tehran's new power calculus. Just when Trump appeared to believe that progress with Tehran was possible through back-channel contacts and public messaging, Iran's leadership is depicted as turning on its own top diplomat, exposing the fragility of any apparent opening between Washington and the Islamic Republic. Commentators say Mojtaba Khamenei's first major house cleaning may well begin with the foreign ministry, where key figures like Abbas Araghchi, long central to nuclear talks and ceasefire diplomacy, could face sidelining or removal as hardliners consolidate control. A loyalty check in Tehran is increasingly seen as looming over Araghchi, who now faces the ultimate political stress test as factions debate whether his years of engagement with Trump and the West represent valuable experience or unacceptable vulnerability to outside influence. Amid the renewed war between Iran and America, big trouble may be looming for Iran's foreign minister, as factions inside the system move to challenge his wartime diplomacy and tighten political oversight over his conduct. Iranian lawmakers are now said to be collecting evidence to seek the impeachment of Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, signaling that parliamentary hardliners want to hold him directly accountable for the way talks with Washington have been handled. Hosseinali Hajideligani has stated that Parliament is compiling documents so that the impeachment process can be launched at what he called the right time, suggesting a deliberate effort to line up legal and political arguments before moving against Araghchi. Hajideligani serves as the first deputy chair of Parliament's Article 90 Committee, the powerful oversight body tasked with scrutinizing the performance of the executive, judiciary, and legislature, giving his warnings added institutional weight. He has criticized the talks held during the U.S. ceasefire period as inappropriate, arguing that engaging in negotiations while missiles are still flying sends the wrong message both to Iran's adversaries and to its own population. Hajideligani went further, describing the very use of the word negotiation during wartime as a signal for renewed fighting, implying that any hint of compromise could embolden enemies to escalate attacks rather than seek de-escalation. He warned that any deal which gives up sovereignty or territorial waters would violate Iran's constitution, framing potential concessions over maritime boundaries or strategic corridors as crossing inviolable legal red lines. The lawmaker concluded that Parliament would not back down if any agreement crossed those red lines, insisting that MPs are prepared to use impeachment and other oversight tools to block or punish any move they see as undermining Iran's territorial integrity. Details of the move against Iran's foreign minister were first reported by the outlet Iran International, which highlighted growing political pressure on Abbas Araghchi and the backlash his latest media appearances have triggered. Araghchi has come under fire from conservative media over a recent wartime interview, with critics accusing him of speaking too openly and revealing sensitive information at a moment of intense conflict and scrutiny. In that interview, he discussed the wars with the United States and Israel as well as internal security plans, offering rare insight into how Tehran views the battlefield, its own vulnerabilities, and its broader strategy for managing the crisis. He also spoke about negotiations with Washington during the conflict, acknowledging diplomatic contacts and ceasefire efforts in a way that some hardliners argue sends mixed signals while missiles and drones are still being exchanged. Appearing on the YouTube program Chronicles of War Majaray Jang, Araghchi went further by describing security gaps inside Iran, a level of candor that many domestic commentators saw as crossing an unofficial red line. He stated that vulnerabilities which allowed attacks on senior officials haven't been resolved, effectively admitting that the same weaknesses that enabled earlier strikes could still be exploited if enemies chose to do so. Araghchi also spoke about contingency planning in the event that the country's leader were killed during the war, outlining succession and emergency governance scenarios that are rarely discussed publicly in Iran. He described in general terms how the government would respond to attacks on top officials and critical facilities, touching on evacuation plans, underground infrastructure, and crisis management protocols designed to keep the state functioning under extreme pressure. Political analyst Mostafa Khoshcheshm went on state television to slam Araghchi's wartime interview, delivering a harsh critique that quickly echoed across conservative media and social networks. He argued that Araghchi's comments revealed a lack of strategic thinking about war and security, suggesting that the foreign minister's analysis of threats and vulnerabilities fell far below what is expected from a senior official. Khoshcheshm went so far as to call the interview a disaster in public relations, image building and image repair, saying that instead of improving his standing, Araghchi had damaged his own reputation and raised new doubts about his judgment. Mojtaba Khamenei allegedly warned President Pezeshkian that any future resignation would be immediately accepted, according to claims made by his in-law. Mohammad Bagher Karazi claimed that President Pezeshkian had threatened to resign as many as 28 times, according to media reports. Karazi alleged that Mojtaba Khamenei said, "If he resigns again, I will approve it immediately," while describing internal political tensions. Mohammad Bagher Karazi said, and I quote, "If he resigns one more time, I will approve it. I will write approved underneath it. And that will be the end of it. Pezeshkian no longer dares. They all backed down," unquote. The claims have triggered fresh political controversy across Iran's deeply divided power establishment and intensified speculation about internal rivalries. President Pezeshkian's office dismissed the allegations as baseless and false, according to Iran International. Mehdi Tabatabai said, and I quote, "A sinister alliance of deceitful agitators and proponents of extremism and incompetence has targeted sacred unity and national cohesion. 2 years after their defeat at the ballot box, they are still seeking revenge against the will of the people. They have become puppets of Iran's enemies. It is deplorable," unquote. Presidential officials accused political opponents of spreading rumors aimed at undermining national unity and deepening divisions within the country. A senior advisor to President Pezeshkian claimed Karazi has no access to Mojtaba Khamenei and is known for making what he described as strange stories. The allegations come months after reports claimed President Pezeshkian had considered resigning over what he saw as a loss of executive authority. Reports published in May said the president believed his administration had been increasingly sidelined by IRGC-linked hardline factions. Several reformist figures have urged Iranian authorities to clarify the allegations before they trigger a deeper political crisis inside the country. Karazi also claimed Mojtaba Khamenei is planning to replace Supreme National Security Council Secretary Mohammad Bagher Karazi. He further alleged that Mohsen Rezai is expected to take over as the next Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council. Karazi also claimed Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was warned not to interfere in ongoing negotiations related to the United States. The remarks come as competing political factions continue to clash over the controversial Iran-US Memorandum of Understanding. Hardline factions have accused President Pezeshkian of crossing Iran's red lines by backing the agreement with the United States. President Pezeshkian has insisted the agreement received all the necessary approvals after securing the required support from the Supreme National Security Council.